To talk. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Karen Finn, and I am so excited to be here on the Mind Journal Talks. It's such an honor for me to be here and talk with y'all about things that aren't necessarily the easiest to deal with in life. And today, our topic is how to heal after divorce. And healing a broken heart after divorce is really different for everyone. In fact, some people start healing before the divorce is final. And typically, those folks are the ones who have decided to get divorced. So they've been thinking about it, they've been planning for it long before they let their spouse know that that's the direction they wanted to take, that they didn't have any more hope for their marriage. So, one of the questions that I usually get asked when people are wondering about how to heal after divorce is, how do you actually start the healing process? How do you know you're making progress? Just what does this look like? Because, in all honesty, when you go through divorce, or at least when I went through divorce, it feels like you've fallen into this deep abyss that there's no possible way out of. But I want you to know that there is a way out. You can move forward and you can truly heal and feel more like yourself, sometimes even better than you've ever felt before if you go through the process to heal. And so, the first thing you need to do when you want to heal from divorce is accept that you will have to go through some pain. I know that sounds kind of funny. I mean, of course, you have to go through pain if you're getting divorced, but there's this kind of knowledge in your head and there's this kind of knowledge in your heart, right? So you need to allow yourself to know that it's going to hurt and that it's going to be okay. All great changes in life are accompanied by some form of discomfort. It's just with divorce, the discomfort is really pretty large. So you need to learn how to support yourself to cope with the pain that you're feeling. And this looks different for everyone. Some people have more helpful ways of coping, and some people have more unhelpful ways of coping. So let me point out the unhelpful ways first, so you can probably check them, stop them if you're falling down any of these paths. So some people like to cope with pain by numbing it out. They can numb it out with all kinds of things. They can numb it out with alcohol. They can numb it out with prescription or non-prescription drugs. They can numb it out with food. They can numb it out with sex. They can numb it out with spending a lot of money. And what happens is, for folks that choose one of these paths to kind of numb out the pain, is that it kind of makes the pain stick around. It can cause problems with addiction. It can cause all kinds of heartache on top of the heartache they're trying to avoid. So instead, what I recommend is doing something else. So the something else might look like, and this is what it looked like for me when I went through my divorce, although I did do one of the bad things too, right? The bad things, the less helpful things, let me call it that. So I'll tell you what the good coping mechanism was, then I'll admit to you what I did that wasn't so helpful. So the good coping mechanism that I developed when I was going through my own divorce was to set aside time where I would allow myself to do my grieving. So I'd recognize that it would come up during the workday. And, back then in cubicle land, the workplace certainly was not the place to openly display my emotions. And so I would kind of stuff them down during the workday and focus on work. But then when I got home, I'd allow myself the time to cry, the time to beat a pillow because I was so angry, the time to just comfort myself. and take good care of myself. So when I set aside that time, I had kind of a schedule almost where it was okay to let all my emotions flow, then that was very helpful. The thing I did that wasn't so helpful, that did cause me a lot of problems, was I coped and tried to numb my feelings by taking control of my eating. And for me, that meant not eating. I felt like I had control over what was going on around me and with me by saying I won't eat. Um, wasn't a smart move. It caused me some pretty big problems that I had to deal with. And just, I don't recommend it. Even though lots of people fall into what I call the divorce diet, I took mine a little bit too far. Another thing that can help folks with dealing with their emotions and coping with their emotions is something that I often recommend to my clients too, is journaling. But you got to know how to journal all my unhappy emotions and just kind of dumping on the page. Um, that works for a little bit, but it can also wind you really up and keep you out of the solving and coping with it, right? So if you're going to journal as a way to cope with your emotions, it really does help to get them all out. But then to shift gears a little bit and start talking about or journaling about what you can do about that, right? And maybe what you can do about feeling very angry is go for a run. Because when you're experiencing a lot of anger, right, you have a lot of energy. And going for a run may help. Beating on pillows, which is one of the things I did, may help. Getting busy cleaning the house may help. That's one of the things that I do when I get really upset is I start cleaning. So there are things you can do to help yourself cope with all the pain that comes with divorce. And that's just kind of the beginning of it, right? I kind of alluded to the next step to help you heal for divorce and in the journaling, right? Is you start to do something, come up with ideas for doing something that feel more positive, right? So, how can you inject some positivity, some positive emotions into your life? Some people like to do that by watching comedies, right? That's a positive emotion. Some people like to do it by dancing, right? Because that gets their bodies moving in a rhythmic way where they don't really have to think. And I apologize for the phone. I forgot to turn off one of my phones. But hopefully you can still hear me over top of what I call the dancing music. So perfect timing with that. Um, the idea is to find something that makes you feel good that can change your emotional state. There's one thing that I did a lot of is I listened to music. Um, and when I was going through my divorce, one of the bands that I listened to uh, was AC/DC, right? Going back to my rebellious, I guess, teenage angst time. Um, and there was a song that made me giggle and still makes me giggle today every time I hear it. And it's kind of off color. Okay, it's like really off color. And, you know, something a tween would just totally get a kick out of, and I still do too. It's Big Balls by AC/DC. In fact, I heard it this morning as I was showering and I started to giggle. It is just so silly. But little things like that, that are completely ridiculous, that nobody else will get, can be what you need to do for yourself to inject a little bit of positivity and lighten the angst of the divorce. The next step you can take to start to heal after your divorce is really, for some people, an enormous leap. It was for me. And it's to take responsibility for your role in the failure of your marriage. And I know, especially in some cases, it's so easy to say, but it's their fault we're getting divorced. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. It's because of them, right? The truth is that as long as you persist in that idea that it's all them, the more you're making yourself a victim. And as a victim, most people feel pretty powerless and it makes it more difficult to heal. So if you can take even a modicum of responsibility for the divorce, if all you can say is, I take responsibility for choosing to marry that person, then you begin to give yourself a little bit more power and the ability to move forward instead of staying stuck in the misery of the divorce and all the pain. The next step you can take, which is really like graduate school, post grad, it's like incredible when you can take this step because it really means that you're able to release your divorce and all the pain that comes with it. It's forgiveness. Forgiveness is a really tough concept for most people because I think that they misunderstand what's meant by forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't about condoning anybody's actions. It's about making a decision for yourself that what happened in the past is not going to control you any longer. So you can forgive your ex for everything they did that brought about the end of your marriage, and you can forgive yourself for anything you wish you could have, should have, or, really might have chosen differently to do. And once you're at that point where you can lovingly release the pain of the past, you'll be on your way to completely living a new life post divorce. And that's, I think, what everybody struggles with, is knowing that there is a happy life post divorce, because there's so much pain at the beginning. But if you can go through the steps of accepting that there's pain, figuring out your specific way of coping with the pain, injecting some positivity or even lightness, accepting responsibility, and then reaching forgiveness, then you'll be able to actually have your own great life again. It's going to be different, but it's still going to be a great life. So, another question that I get asked very, very frequently is, how long is it going to take me to heal from divorce? I wish I had an answer. There are lots of people out there that say it's going to take you a year, it's going to take you 2 years, or they give you a formula for every 10 years you were married, it's going to take you 1 year to heal, or something like that. And I want to tell you, they're all wrong. Every last one of them, they're wrong. Nobody can tell you how long it's going to take you to heal from your divorce. That's because you're unique. Your marriage was unique. Your determination to work through and experience what you need to experience to heal from your divorce is going to be unique to you. There are certain milestones you can expect to reach, just like the ones I shared with you earlier about how to start healing from divorce. But no one can tell you how long it's going to take to heal. It's going to be really dependent upon you. Now, there are some things you can look at and ask yourself that kind of herald the healing, right? It'll let you know that you are healing. So I'm kind of in a different situation here today. So let me scroll down because I have some notes and I don't want to skip any of these 6 steps. Okay. So the first thing to look for is good feelings of self-worth. And what does that mean? Well, when I got divorced, I felt like everybody was looking at me as a pariah, that there was something wrong with me. Everybody could take one look at me. It was like I had this giant D sculpted into my forehead, that I was divorced, I was bad, I was wrong, I was in some way defective. Okay? That's not good feelings of self-worth, let me tell you. But when you start feeling good about yourself again, right, you know that you're making progress towards healing, right? when the second thing to look for is disentanglement from your ex. So when you're not constantly wondering, I wonder what they're doing, who are they seeing, how are they feeling, I hope they hurt as much as I do, all those things that kind of go through your head. When you are feeling less entangled with your ex, you know that you're moving on and healing divorce. Number 3 is the anger. Oh yeah, everybody has anger towards their ex in some form or fashion. For some people, it's enraging anger. For other people, it's just kind of like, not so much, I don't care for them, and they can move on. But there's so many. Oh my goodness, now my dogs are barking. Cool, go. This is really an entertaining thing today. So I hope you're laughing and it is helping you cope a little bit with your emotional pain and that you can still hear me okay. So when you are able to let some of that anger go and just seeing your ex or thinking about them or talking to them isn't a trigger for more distress for you, it's another good sign that you're making progress on your way to healing. Grief. Yeah. When you've completed your grief work, then you also know that you're progressing. And grief is kind of a complicated thing when it comes to divorce because it's not just your ex, it's your way of life that you had to say goodbye to. It's the future you thought you had, all those dreams and hopes are gone, right? If you have children, right? There are hopes and dreams associated with that, right? There's grief about now you're a single parent until your ex becomes a single parent, right? There's all kinds of things to grieve. Some of them are huge, and some of them are little tiny, but they still cause pain because they feel like lost. And all of those need to be dealt with and put into the right place in your thought process and in your emotional process. And once you've been able to do that, that's another sign. When I got divorced, oh, thank you, Melanie, for that really kind comment. When I got divorced, there was, remember that great big D I thought everybody could see on my head? I was very shut down. It was hard for me to interact with other folks, to share the truth that I was getting divorced. Boy, was that a deal, right? I thought everybody could already tell I was getting divorced, but then to actually have to tell them, it was really difficult. And it was that difficulty that was a sign that I still had some work to do to get over my divorce. It's when it became easier and not a big deal that I could say, yeah, I conquered this phase of getting over my divorce. The next step and the last of the 6 signs that I have people look for when they get divorced to know that they're making progress and getting through it so that they can say that they're healed, is their ability to feel good in groups again. Now, it's really tied to the social intimacy, being able to tell folks about your truth and feeling okay about it. The social self-worth is just that sense of pride and ability to, I call it, kind of glow again when you're out and about. So you can let your true inner light shine again. That's when you know that you're feeling good all the way through. And so once you have those 6 pieces kind of in place to know that you're making progress, you can continue to look at how you're doing with each of those. And when they're like, yeah, I got all that, then you'll know that you're healed from your divorce. The next question that I have to answer for y'all is, do you ever fully recover from divorce? I think the answer is absolutely, positively yes, if that's what you want. If you want to continue to hold on to the pain, the grief, the misery of the past, then you're not going to fully recover because you're still holding on too tightly to that stuff. But if you're willing to forgive the past, to give up the anger, to embrace who you are now and look at the possibilities in your life, then yes, you positively can. It doesn't mean that you don't ever get tripped up every once in a while, but it does mean that you can fully recover from it. I'll tell you a really quick story here. I'm remarried. I got remarried, I guess, I don't know, 8, 10 years after my divorce. And my husband noticed, he said, every year around Thanksgiving, you get really cranky. And I thought, no, I don't. And then I noticed, yeah, I do. I really do. So I had to stop and think about it. And it was actually because of when I got married the first time. It was right around Thanksgiving. And once I had that recognition, I was able to let that go. And now Thanksgiving is much more joyous for everyone, of course, because I'm not cranky. But it was one of the last pieces I had to let go of to fully recover from my divorce. Another question I get asked an awful lot is people will say, does healing from divorce just take time? Is that all it is? It just takes time to pass? No. No way, no how. And I say this because you've either heard stories of, seen depicted in movies, or maybe even know someone who has been divorced for decades even. And you bring up the subject of their ex and they revert right back to the grumpy, complaining, blaming, all that kind of really negative energy. And those folks, they just let time pass, but they haven't done any of the work that it really takes to fully recover from divorce. And then let's see, I think I've got time for one more question of my prepared questions before we start taking any of y'all's questions. And it's, who suffers the most in a divorce? The truth is, everyone associated with a marriage suffers in some way from a divorce. So I don't think it's really a matter of who suffers more, because the comparison won't help you or anyone else heal, right? So you have a responsibility to heal from your divorce, except for your children, right? All the other adults have responsibility to heal as well. So I'm imagining, because it was for me, right, that you probably have your ex that your ex needs to heal, right? Your family of origin probably needs to heal in some way. Their family of origin needs to heal in some way. If there was any other party involved in the divorce because of infidelity, then that person's got some kind of stuff to deal with too. So there's all kinds of adult stuff that needs to happen, that each adult is responsible for their own healing and their own suffering, right? But for the children, it's just like being in an airplane, okay? You need to be as safe and stable and calm as you can possibly be for your children so that they have the structure they're used to and know that they're going to be okay. You need to put your oxygen mask on, though, first, and then theirs. Because if you can't be that stable, competent parent that they need to know that they're going to be okay despite their parents splitting up, then they're not going to be able to get through the divorce and how their lives are changing as easily and fully as you would like. And that can haunt them and it can haunt you. So I really recommend that rather than worrying about who's going to suffer the most in a divorce, that you do your work, you take care of yourself to move on, because that's really all that you have control of. And once your children see that you're able to do that, and that's what you're choosing to do, they'll be more able to do it too. So that's all the questions that I had prepared to talk about today with how to heal after divorce. I'd love to answer any questions that you all might have. So please feel free to type them in the chat. Well, I'm not seeing it, but I'm sure that this may not be the easiest place to try to ask questions about something as personal as how to get through a divorce. And I get that. It's totally okay. Oh, here's one from Kurt. How do you know if your marriage is beyond repair? Are there any signs? Gosh, Kurt, this is a fabulous question. It's different for everyone. Okay. So I can't give you an exact formula for it, but the thing you can kind of look for to gauge is, do you have any hope that things can be better? And do you want to put in the effort to make things better? And it can't just be you, it has to be your spouse too. But let me be really clear about that. It's over the whole time of the attempt to repair. So, what I tell most of my clients to do when they choose to work with me on, trying to make up their mind as to whether or not divorce is the right answer for them, is to get everything kind of in place. And if they have hope, if they're willing to put in the work, to give it 6 months, right? That's just kind of a nice round number. Give it 6 months. And if your spouse can come around in that time and be willing to put in the work too, then you know that your marriage is viable, or at least viable to the point of you being able to decide together that it's not, right? So there's still something there, something that's worth exploring. I hope that helps. I'm happy to answer any other questions that y'all may have. And as I started to say earlier, if you do have a question and it doesn't feel really comfortable for you to try to ask it here in this forum, please know that you can send me an email to Karen@drkarenfinn.com. And I do my best to answer emails, within 2 business days. Sometimes they get hectic, so it may take a little bit longer. So don't feel like I've forgotten you. I will get to you if you do need to ask me a question in a more private setting. I'm happy to do that. With that, it doesn't look like there are any more questions for folks who want to ask them live. I so appreciate Minds Journal for allowing me to be on one of their talks again today. And I appreciate y'all's patience with all the extra activity and sound effects we had going on. I hope that you found this valuable, and I hope that you will reach out to me if I can be of any help to you at all. Take good care of yourselves.